Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Canada, because that's where I'm taking you today. So not too long ago I was browsing the internet as I usually do, and then I ran into the website, the official website of the University of Waterloo in Canada, and guess what? I was reading what the directions are when it comes to having to write something for the university. So let's say that you're a student in Canada. I would strongly suggest you not to go to this university, but let's say it's the closest home. So you go to this university and then what do you know? You got, at one point you have to write something, whether it be a composition, whether it be an essay. Well, not really essays at the university, but whether it be even your dissertation. I mean, I still remember when I had to write my dissertation or thesis, and of course there were some guidelines, but they were mostly grammar, and then nothing really. It was like explaining you how to place the bibliography. That's what it was. But not if you are in Canada, because there is in fact on the official website, link in the description below if you want to destroy and lose your brain cells and lose a couple of IQ points, there are guidelines on what words are deemed offensive by the university that you're not allowed to use on whatever you're so basically you want a degree from there, you cannot use these words that are deemed offensive. Yeah, get ready for this. And then the acceptable alternative. Gonna have a great time, get ready and buckle up. University of Waterloo, University Relations, Race and Ethnicity, Terminology. Of course, that's the topic. Then people tell me I'm obsessed. Language can be a powerful tool that can be used to empower, motivate and inspire us. I agree. Language can also offend us or perpetuate harms. Yeah, already got the first red flag. Here is a quick reference list of words and phrases to use and avoid. A comprehensive list of words and terms to avoid is provided below. So the first one that you need to avoid is the word mulatto, and the preferred version is multiracial, biracial, multi-ethnic, polyethnic. Well, I'll give them that, at least the first one. To me, the word mulatto, once again, I wouldn't really consider it offensive, but then again, I'm not mulatto, so I don't know how people who are like multi-ethnic feel, but I don't use it anyways because it sounds old to me. It sounds archaic. So yeah, out of all of these preferred words, I would say multi-ethnic is probably the one I would use. Polyethnic sounds like some kind of building, to be honest. So yeah, next one. Avoid the word Caucasian. Preferred white people. Now here's the thing, I'm not saying that Caucasian is the most correct word. In fact, it's not necessarily correct from a semantic standpoint, but with that being said, this must be an American thing, because honestly, as a European, I don't know about you, if you're from Europe, let me know if it's the same as me, but I never use the word Caucasian anyways. Like Caucasico, salve, sono Caucasico, I've never used it in my life. But then again, the reason why I'm saying this is cringing a little bit is because they said offensive. I mean, you can tell me Caucasian isn't correctly descriptive, but it's not offensive. This whole thing is motivated by appropriate non-offensive terms. Caucasian isn't offensive. Would you be offended if I called you, hey, I saw a Caucasian guy? I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's offensive. But who am I to know? Anyways, white people, yeah, sure, I'll use white people anyways. So next one. Black people is the preferred term. Let's see what terms we need to avoid. Colored, yeah, it sounds a little old school. Blacks. Is blacks offensive? Well, I suppose, but then again, I wouldn't say offensive. Like, I would say informal, sure. I mean, I do think it's better to say black people sing very well rather than saying blacks sing very well. But I don't think, I mean, I know I've got quite a lot of black subscribers. Is it offensive to you, the pluralization of blacks? Like, does it sound offensive? Please let me know, because according to Canada, it is. Then African American, oh, in a Canadian context, oh my gosh, this is funny. I'm sure it happens, and I'll tell you why in a second why I know this happens, but imagine being like a black person in Canada, and someone says, oh, so you're an African American, and it'd be like, no, I'm from Canada. I mean, I understand that. I mean, one could argue the fact that perhaps by American, maybe someone means the continent, but what have you. I mean, we don't want to be pedantic, but the reason why I told you, here's a little story for you. The reason why I told you that, yeah, I can see that happening is because I have seen YouTubers, I'm not going to say the name, but I've seen people, not only on YouTube, but on Reddit, of course on Reddit, freaking swamp of Reddit. I've seen people talking about a specific actor and saying, oh yeah, look at this great African American actor, and the guy is African. Like African. He's not an African American. So if they do it with African people, I'm sure there are people that do it with Canadians, like 100%. And then the one right next to it, Yeah, sure, I understand. I mean, it's a term that I'm not even going to say it because it sounds a lot like the N-word. It's not the N-word, and in fact, it's a term that sometimes we still find in published works, particularly if they're like older, something that was published in the 80s and the 90s, maybe even in 2000. But I understand why black people would be preferred. I did get once someone getting offended because I said black people, and they're like, don't say black people. Here's the problem with being, what can be deemed offensive? When do you place the line? Offensive towards who? Well, in this case, the University of Canada. I'd like you, though, to note one thing. Notice how, and this is no clerical mistake, notice how white people, the W is lowercase, black people, the B is uppercase. This is Canada we're talking about, so this is on purpose. Now, you know what's funny about this? Is that of all the people and all the different possible political and philosophical and socioeconomic positions that a person can have, even at a linguistic level, I am extremely pro-equality. Thing is that when I say equality, I mean real equality. And real equality means, and this is my position, feel free to clip it, white people, black people, you either make both capital, the W and the B, or you make both lowercase. This very sensical position, which clearly is the non-racist and non-discriminatory position, is now considered fascist by some people in the radical areas of So anyways, white is lowercase. Next one, avoid. So the offensive words are minority, visibility minority. Now, I've never heard the term visibility minority in my life. No idea what that is on about, but minority, hold on a minute. I thought that's all you talk about. It's like minorities, minority, the rights of minorities. When did that become offensive? How? Why is a minority is a numerically related term when it comes to statistical percentages within a given population. So how is being a minority within a larger population ethnic background, how is that offensive? But let's see what the alternative is. If minorities, how do I refer to minorities? Equity deserving groups. So, my gosh, talking about efficiency. So every time I need to say the word minority, I need to swap it with equity if I want to get a degree. I'm so glad I already got my degree back in the day. I need to swap it with equity deserving groups. Are they going to say EDG? Is that what they're going to do? Because this is going to take today I'd like to talk about the rights of the equity deserving groups. Because one of the characteristics of equity deserving groups is that oftentimes equity deserving groups are not treated fairly because they are equity deserving groups. And as such, we need to think about the rights of equity deserving groups. Not to mention, notice that they're talking about equity, not equality. Not the same thing, but it is what it is. Next, avoid developed, developing country, third world. Oh gosh, third world, I've used that a few times, and developing country. Yeah, let's see what I need to say. Use a specific geographic region when grouping countries together. But how? I'm gonna need more. You need to do better than that to give direction to your students and pupils. How? Anyways, developing countries, you can't say that, it's okay. Next one, avoid slave, slavery, slave owner, master. Hold on a minute, I think they're getting confused here. Is slavery offensive? Well, it's a fact of history, definitely a horrible fact of history. But the word, here's why this is a slippery slope. And I say that as a teacher, former, well, sort of, current, whatever. When you start considering a term that is descriptive of something that happened that you don't like, as offensive, then you need to start finding all of these crazy replacements because they offend you, and for some reasons that give it. What about the things that offend? This whole thing offends me. This entire thing offends me. So why is what offends you, so the term slave and slavery, which are real facts that we need to talk about, why does the fact that these words offend you have more importance than the fact that, for example, I'm offended by the way you changed the capitalization of your letter in an incoherent and, quite frankly, non-grammatically correct way. Anyways, let's see what the replacements are. So you can't say slave, you have to say enslaved person. Once again, efficiency through the roof. Enslaved person. Enslavement instead of slavery. Enslavement. How is that better? I'm not trying to be the person that needs to find the problem and everything. No, I'm okay, all right. I agree. Let's not use slavery. Why does enslavement make it better? Is enslavement a nice thing? Shouldn't we think more about discussing the realities, historical realities, of the horrible things that slaves throughout history had to endure, rather than fixating on the word that might be, oh no, don't say slavery, say enslavement. Oh yeah, I'm sure that now, if all the people that lived and died throughout centuries as slaves, oh now they feel so much better, thanks to your effort. University of Waterloo, literally where is the loo? Enslaver instead of owner master. So let me get this straight. Is enslaver replacing both the owner and the master as terminologies? Enslaver. Does that, listen, English is not my first language. I can understand the word master. Apparently now the word master bedroom cannot be used according to the same crew. And you have to say main bedroom. I think master bedroom sounds better, but that's mostly because I have like, it gives me like D&D vibes. But yeah, slave owner is not okay, but enslaver is. A human being shouldn't be allowed to own another human being. I agree, but it happened. So by erasing the fact that these people did, whether you like it or not, own other people, which is the horrible fact we should be able to talk about, by removing this, you're not removing the fact that it happened, and in fact you make it more nebulous. Enslaver. Next, you can't say ghetto. Really? You can't say inner city. Inner city, how am I gonna play city skylines now? Let's see, oh, it's a big paragraph. So you can't say ghetto in a city, you have to say use the name of the neighborhood or area or terms like city center, downtown, central, urban. Now, I do like the term downtown very much. It sounds really nice to me, but how is it better than inner city? It's descriptive. Maybe there's something I'm not. Next, avoid orientals and use Asian people, Asian Canadian individuals. So, am I allowed to say Asian individuals and Asian Canadian people, or am I only allowed to follow specifically and to the letter your guidelines? It's gonna be the latter. So I imagine it's gonna be, yeah. Now, listen, on the thing of the word oriental, being academically, I am an orientalist. I understand that this term is considered by some people offensive within the Anglophone world. But for example, where I come from, so in Italian, and I would say it's the same in French, but if you speak French, let me know. The word orientale and orientalista do not carry any racial, derogatory, or discriminatory weight to them. Nothing. Now, if the English-speaking world and your natives, if you think that the way the word, for example, orientals or these oriental people, if that's how they used it for decades, then I do understand how a word can gain a certain weight, and therefore perhaps it could be considered, you know, some sort of racial slang or whatnot, and so you want to replace it with Asian people. What about Asians though? Because you went against blacks, so can I say Asians? I mean, I wouldn't see anything wrong with it, but I imagine you would. You meaning the person who wrote this nonsense. But then again, I do fail to understand exactly what's wrong with Oriental unless it is connected to the way it was used. So if it was used by Americans in English in a disparaging way, then sure, great, let's not use it. If now that's intrinsically connected to it's called semantic shift, when a word changes a little bit, pivots if you will, and gains different levels, then I understand. But for example, in Italian, when you say orientale, to me, it only summons positive, exotic feels. Like I think of some perfumes, I think of art and vases, I think of, I don't know, warriors, like Chinese dynastic warriors and buildings and pagodas. Like when you say orientale, or food, like Chinese food, Japanese food, Korean and whatnot. So when you say orientale in Italian, there is nothing. But if there is something like that in English, sure. I mean, I'm not gonna like necessarily attack everything, only the things that make no sense. So 95% of what they wrote. Next one. Avoid any colloquial or derogatory terms for peoples. Yeah, I agree. I wonder, considering if that includes white people too though, because it of course should. Derogatory language is wrong towards everyone. Black people, Asians, white people, anyone. Native Americans, okay? You would think that that's obvious, but what's become obvious now is considered radical thought. And use regional terms. For example, an individual from Pakistan. Gosh, they love making it longer. An individual for I spoke with an individual for Pakistan. Goodness gracious. I spoke with an individual from Italy is making videos on YouTube. An Italian. An individual from... Oh my gosh. The last is the best. Let's go. Foreigners. You cannot say foreigners according to the University of Waterloo. It's offensive. How dare you state the fact that some people are from a foreign land, and then avoid illegal aliens. Well, if they are illegal, I'm not gonna say illegal aliens if they're legal, but if they are illegal, I mean, given the word alien is a little weird, I'll give you that. I've got a green card, and it does say that I am a legal alien, and I can't stop but thinking of the xenomorph. I just can't. It is what it is. I understand the meaning is blah blah blah, social linguistic, whatever. I'll give you that. I'll give them that. The word alien is a little weird. And if you were to read a paper and says we saw 15 illegal aliens, I mean, I can't help it. I'm just thinking of Independence Day. But then again, I'll give them that. Whatever. But there is nothing wrong with foreigners. I mean, what's wrong with the word foreigners? And what am I supposed to... Oh, you want to know? What you're supposed to... Yeah, let's go. You should say international people, newcomers, refugees. Now, you know why this drives me nuts? Is because university, academia are supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be neutral from a political level. I understand it's extremely difficult to pull off, but at least they can pretend. And they're supposed to be neutral because they're supposed to show you facts and be logical, right? This is political propaganda. This is nothing but an attempt at forcing people to write the way they want, to support a specific, whether you agree with it or not. Now let me underline this. Like, you can be a left-winger, a right-winger, a centrist, as someone who doesn't care about politics. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with the political thought of the person who's writing this. The problem is that this is a way that an institution that is obviously accessed by people that come from the entirety of the sphere of the political spectrum, and they are being forced to use language that this specific party considers appropriate. This is highly problematic because, once again, it doesn't matter if it's the extreme right, the extreme left. The moment language is censored and you are told what you're supposed to write, even if you don't think it, you keep writing it and you end up saying what they want you to say, you're pushing their message whether you like it or not, which to me is unconstitutional, and it's something that a person should be... Of course, I'm not... If I'm writing a dissertation, I'm not gonna write whether I think it or not, and I don't, but I'm not gonna write stuff to insult other people, to insult, I don't know, foreigners, to insult people of a specific target, black people, white people, once again, Asians. I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to be allowed to write that if I'm writing like a bunch of... But that's not because... It's because it's not what a dissertation is. But in this case, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to dictate what you're allowed to say, and therefore, possibly, in their mind, by extension, what you're allowed to think, at least in public. This is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous route. I know we laughed about it, and it is funny. But apart from being funny, it's also dangerous because whenever you look at totalitarian regimes, it happened with the fascists in Italy, it happened with the Nazi party in Germany, and of course it happened with Stalin and the communists in Russia in the 1940s, that the government will use anything in their power, in this case academia, to suppress individual thought. It doesn't matter what you think, okay, to me. You can be whatever you want. I will fight for your ability to express your freedom and to express what you think. Of course, within a certain level of logical civility. If you start just throwing insults at people and starting to accusing people or inciting people to violence, yeah, that's not okay. But this level of meticulous organization, you can't say that, you need to say individual, you need to say that, it's... Oh, gosh. I hate it so much. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.